am who I am. I am where I need to be. Headed where I wanna go. Oh, I can be who I wanna be. I'm ready now.
There's this moment that comes unannounced. Nobody else sees it. You're sitting in the car after pulling into the driveway, and you just don't go inside. Or you're lying awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, running the same inventory of regrets you've been tallying for years. And somewhere beneath the noise of your own life, something in you whispers, quietly, almost below hearing, "Come on. I can't keep doing this." That whisper is the beginning of everything. If you're hearing it right now, even faintly, you're exactly where you need to be. Welcome to Your Genesis, a simple podcast about change. I'm Antonio Matta, poet, philosopher, journalist, ghostwriter, and the author of several books. I'm also a trauma-informed, person-centered counseling practitioner and peer support worker who spent years hosting Recovery Dialogues and Sober Stories, a podcast about mental health and addiction. This show is something different, wider, built for anyone ready to begin, regardless of where they're beginning from. Season 1. 10 episodes, 1 idea per episode, 1 honest conversation at a time. Before we get into it, I want to tell you who this show is for. If you've survived things that other people only read about in articles, if you've carried guilt or grief or shame so long it feels like a permanent address, if you've tried the self-help route before and walked away feeling like the advice was written for someone with a cleaner story than yours, this is yours. I made it for you. And I want you to know something from the start. I trust you. I trust that you already carry the capacity to move through whatever brought you here. My job isn't to hand you answers. My job is to hold space for the honest conversation that helps your own answers surface. I wrote a short book called Your Genesis, a simple essay about change. It came from years of sitting with my own wreckage, being born 3 months premature to a mother I'd lose to cancer before I could form a single memory of her. Growing up, navigating foster care and systems that weren't designed with someone like me in mind. And then spending decades letting unprocessed trauma dictate the architecture of my choices without even knowing that's what was happening. Your Genesis grew out of the moment I finally stopped running from the truth about my own life. And this podcast takes those ideas off the page and puts them where they belong. In conversation, in your ear, on your walk, during your commute, wherever you do your best thinking. So, what does Genesis actually mean? When people hear the word Genesis, they think of something massive, a cosmic event, the origin of everything. And I get that. But the Genesis I'm talking about is quieter. more personal. Your genesis is the internal decision to stop living on autopilot. Full stop. You don't have to move to a new city. You don't have to blow up your whole life. The genesis happens the moment you recognize that the way you've been seeing yourself, your past, your patterns, it doesn't have to be the final draft. Think about this. The Earth has been rotating since long before any of us showed up. Stars are aligning. Somewhere a flower is pushing through soil for the first time today. Someone is dying. Someone else is being born. And a couple just exchanged vows in a courthouse with fluorescent lighting and bad coffee. Change is already the rhythm of existence. Your genesis is simply you deciding to move with it consciously, with your eyes open, instead of being dragged. I'm sure you're familiar with what I consider the myth of the clean slate. One thing I want to name early because it kept me stuck for years. The fantasy that starting over means erasing what came before. It doesn't. That's not how any of this works. Your genesis honors everything you've survived and chooses to build with it. The trauma, the decisions you wish you could take back, the relationships that went sideways, the years you spent trying to convince yourself you were fine when you were quietly drowning. All of that is part of the raw material. I spent a long time wishing I could just wake up as someone with a different backstory. Somebody whose mother didn't die 3 months after he was born. Somebody who didn't grow up carrying a subconscious guilt about that loss without even having words for it. But wishing for a different foundation doesn't build anything. At some point, you have to look at the ground you're standing on and say, okay, this is where I build from. That's what a genesis is. A deliberate, honest beginning that includes your whole story. Not a story you have to perform or justify to anyone, a story you're willing to sit with on your own terms at whatever pace feels safe. I want to tell you about 3 ingredients you already have in your internal cupboard. In the original book and across this season, we'll keep coming back to 3 things that make a genesis possible. They've been with you. They're not skills you need to learn from someone with a certification hanging on their wall. First, honesty. The desire to see yourself and your life without the filter. Without the mask you've been grooming for other people. That's where it starts. Second, willingness. Being open, even slightly, even reluctantly, to the possibility that something can shift. You don't need to be enthusiastic about it. Willingness the size of a cracked window lets in enough air. Third, support. And I don't mean a cheering section. I mean one person, one resource, one practice, one moment of connection that reminds you that you are not doing this alone. The book's opening poem, No Vacancy, was written because I needed to say this to someone I loved, and also to myself. You do not have to befriend misery. If you're open to it, here's a gentle exercise for this episode. It takes less than 5 minutes. Grab your phone, a notebook, the Notes app, whatever's close. Sit with 3 questions. Write quickly, without editing yourself. 1. Where in my life do I feel most ready for a new beginning? 2. What am I afraid might happen if I actually change this? 3. What might become possible if I do? Then, if you're willing, write one sentence in the present tense that starts with, "My Genesis is." Just claim it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Mine wasn't. And if you sit down and nothing comes, that's okay too. Sometimes the act of sitting with the question is the beginning. Your micro challenge for the next 48 hours, if it feels right. Pick one small symbolic action that marks this beginning. Cancel something that drains you. Make the call you've been avoiding. Clean a corner of your space that's been collecting dust and avoidance. Something tangible. Something you choose.
I am the change.
So here's where we've been today. You're allowed to begin again, regardless of your past. A Genesis isn't an erasure. It's a deliberate, honest construction from everything you already are. And the ingredients, honesty, willingness, support, are already in your hands. Next episode, we're going to talk about the space we give to doubt, how it shows up, why it feels so convincing, and what becomes possible when we stop offering it permanent residence. I'll see you there. If something in this episode stirred even a small tremor in your chest, pick up a copy of Your Genesis, a simple essay about change, the second edition. It's a short, practical little book, the kind you can read in one sitting and return to for years. The life we live can be changed from the undesirable into something more favorable when we stop running from reality, from truth, from greater awareness. You'll find it wherever you buy books online. And if you write your Genesis statement this week, I'd love to hear it. Send it to me. I'll share some of them, anonymously, with permission, later in the season. Until next time, breathe. Proceed.